It's time for us to install winches in these two first gens we have here. BYT has been relying on the kindness of strangers for a long time. Time to get its own winch. As you can see, I've already removed the front bumper. So we need to get this winch in here as tight as we can. Now, luckily, I've got a 3-inch body lift, so I'm gonna be able to put it up a lot higher than normal, but that also means I need to do a custom plate. So I'm gonna get started on that with a little cardboard aided drafting, while Ryan here starts working on what he's got to do for his truck.
So on mine, I already have a tube front bumper and plate set up. I'm going to have to create a plate that's going to work in conjunction with that bumper. I also have the DIY 4x.52 kit. So I've got the longer springs up front and different brackets that go on my frame. So everything's going to have to tie in together and work cohesively. It's going to be fun.
So these are going to be two very different builds to get basically the same winch. My original plan was to mount the winch feet forward. That's supposed to be the strongest way to mount them. So I got to work mapping out a vertical mounting plate using cardboard. I eventually decided this wasn't going to work. So this piece will be the Fairlead mount instead. Using our cardboard, we've now got a reasonable approximation of what we're going to need to make for our front mounting plate. Now, we're still working on exactly how far in this is going to be, the final dimensions here, but we've got enough here to where we can go ahead and cut this piece out of steel so we can get a better feel for exactly what we're working with. Before we get these pieces cut out, let's check in with Ryan and see what he's up to.
First I had to take the bumper off the truck so that we could get that out of the way and see what space we're working with. After that I brought the winch in and we measured to see how it fit between the frame rails. Let's check out what Josh is doing.
Using the die-cam marking fluid and cardboard template, I got the pattern marked out on a piece of 1/4-inch steel plate. The cardboard doesn't make for the cleanest lines, so I went over all of my lines with a straight edge to clean them up. Once I was satisfied with the pattern, I got to work with the grinder and cutting disc. Luckily, once the long cuts are done, I can switch to using the bandsaw. The Porta-Band with the Swag Table Kit is one of my favorite tools and well worth the money. We've got our pieces cut to make our mounting plate that's going to go across here and our Fairlead plate that's going to come up here. But right now, what we're working on is how we're going to bolt this in place. What we're going to do is we're going to extend these back to capture these 3 holes right here so we can have 3 more bolts and the hole here. Now all of these had rivets originally and we've pulled those out so that we're going to be able to mount our plates nice and flush. Alright, we've got our mounting plate cut. We've also got the extensions to our recovery points added on and bolted in place so that we can weld all this together and have one solid piece to mount our winch to. My plan for mounting the winch is to have it as far back under the grill as possible. You can see here that there's plenty of room, so this will allow me to keep a very good approach angle. While I get this welded up, let's check back in with Ryan.
So on the BYT, Josh was able to make a flush or flat mount plate for his winch mount that goes right along the bottom of the frame. The Jimmy doesn't have a body lift, and so there's not as much clearance. I'm using 2-inch angle iron to lower where my mounting plate will attach, and that will let me clear my radiator support and grill with the winch.
As you can see here, we have our winch mounting plate all welded up and ready to go, and it slides in here just like that. But we ran into an issue with the frame horns here. On this first gen Blazer, the frame horns at the front actually curved down, and that was making it so we couldn't get this slid in the way we wanted to. So what we had to do is make a relief cut right here to widen this up, get this flat so that our tray will slide in and out like we want it to. We've got the frame cuts all welded up, ground smooth. So now our frame modifications are complete. So we can slide our winch tray in and out as needed, and we're good to go to start building the front of this, which will be where we're going to mount our Fairlead. All right, we've got a pretty good start already on our Fairlead mount here. We've got this made out of 1/4 inch steel as well, which is a little bit overkill for just mounting a Fairlead, but we're also going to be hanging a bumper off this. We've already got 4 bolt holes across the bottom here, and that's going to bolt into the front of our winch plate. And then here on the side, we've got bolts that are going to go down that will bolt to the top of our frame. So we're going to be tied in really well. And so now it's just time to cut the hole for the Fairlead itself, which is going to be mounted basically right in there.
So while Josh works on his Fairlead mount, I got busy working on and finishing my winch tray. Got it all welded up, added front support, rear support, and it also follows along the frame all the way back to that first cross member. I had to go that far back to add extra rigidity to the frame and give support. Since my bumper already had a front plate on it, I didn't have to build a Fairlead mount, I just had to modify that front area.
Let's check out what Josh is doing.
Back on my Fairlead mount, I was marking out the hole for the cable. So one of the things you can see is that I've been marking my opening using this, but right now we have a steel cable, so we're going to be using the roller style Fairlead like this. But at some point, there's a good chance we're going to be switching to synthetic cable, so I want to make sure that our hole is going to be small enough to where this will still fit and cover. Now, the bolt holes are the same here, but obviously with this roller Fairlead, I could make a really wide hole back here and it would still be completely hidden. Whereas on this one, I want to keep it smaller than this dimension here. So, getting this marked out, about ready to cut it out, but that's why you're seeing me use both. Once I know how big of a hole I want for the cable to pass through, I take some careful measurements to find the center points for the hole saw. With the hole saw cuts done, it's a simple matter to use the grinder again to make the straight cuts and clean up the edges. The cable shouldn't contact the surface of the hole, but it's still nice to get these edges nice and smooth. Now that we've got the hole cut for our cable, and we verified that we can use either style of Fairlead here, the plate is just about done. Now what we got to do is bolt this back onto our winch tray so that we can make sure that we don't have any interference with the bolts coming through here, because we're actually mounting the winch very close to the back of this plate.
So unlike on BYT where Josh has to make a whole mount, my bumper already had one since I built it this way in the first place. And so all I had to do was measure, cut out the hole for the Fairlead for the cable to come through here, and mount it up.
You can see here that I welded a piece of angle iron to the back of the winch mounting plate in order to give it some more rigidity. There's going to be a lot of pressure on this plate, so hopefully that's enough to give it the extra stiffness it needs. This is probably something I'm going to have to keep an eye on. All right, the winch install on BYT here is complete. We've got our Fairlead mount on here. We ended up having to actually tap the Fairlead plate itself because there wasn't enough room on the backside for a bolt. As I mentioned earlier, we were worried about how close it was to the actual winch mount, and it was a problem. But this is 1/4 inch plate. It tapped just fine. So got the Fairlead on here. Got all the electrical hooked up, so our winch is good to go.
I've also got my winch fully installed. You see it's mounted up here nice. There's very minimal clearance. There's just enough room to engage and disengage the clutch here. I didn't have enough room for the control box underneath the grill here, and so I round the cables up and it's mounted right behind the grill, which fits really nice. The controller will plug in right there, and it's out of the way.
We've had the winches in for a couple months now. We've had a chance to test out our mounts, and frankly, they're working out pretty good.
That last snow wheeling trip, you had to pull a couple times, use the trees to get you out of weird positions. Even when I was there to try and pull you out, it didn't work. So having the winch definitely helps.
Absolutely. It's been working out great the way we have it mounted. It's really nice to have the approach angle still tucked up in real nice. BYT and the blue Jimmy here, they're both tucked up underneath the grill, and that's worked out great.
On the Jimmy, I've really enjoyed having the winch. Not only is it that insurance and security of knowing that I can winch out if I ever get stuck, but I've actually had to use it. Out in Moab, I blew a front drive shaft and had to get pulled up an obstacle. So that was really nice to have. Having the control box up out of the way where it's easy accessible has been nice. And one of the things that makes GMC better than the Chevy Blazers is this grill design. I can reach right in here and get to my clutch, no problem.
Yeah, having the winch mounted back up underneath the grill is really great for approach angle, but on the Chevy here, it is a lot harder to reach the clutch. I have to actually reach around the Fairlead mount, which isn't a big deal right now, but when I have a full front bumper on here, it might be a bigger issue that I'll have to deal with. As far as the control box goes, I have mine behind the grill as well, and I just moved the connection point right here to the grill. So that just fits right in there. So that's actually worked out pretty good for mine.
So where do you think you're gonna move, or how are you gonna accommodate the front bumper and the access?
Honestly, I don't know.
In an upcoming video, watch Josh as he builds a full tube bumper for the BYT. So keep tuned, or stay tuned for that coming out.
That video should be coming soon, so be sure to like and subscribe, and thank you for watching Uintagarage. One of the things you can see here is that I'm marking this up for this, what the hell is this thing?